Are we back? Can everyone see me now? Alright, let's see this. Let me refresh my page on YouTube. Go back to Fortress. Everyone should be able to see me now. There we go. It should be like live chat. Are we on? Muscle Man, can you hear me? Oh, yep. Okay, finally, guys, ladies and gentlemen, here I am. And even though we are almost 30 minutes late, how terrible, we are gonna go ahead and start our lecture on muscle, whatever it is we were gonna talk about. That's what's happening on hypertrophy versus strength training. All right, there's two different methods of training, hypertrophy and strength training. I'm going to go into detail about them. I'm going to show you some diagrams. I'm going to show you how it works. This sliding next to my teeth look yellow because the white balance is off, but oh well, you're just going to have to put up with that. So we are ready. Hola Iván, Isaias, hola, saludos a mi video. Vamos a hablar de hipertrofia de la musculatura. I don't even know how to say it in Spanish. I'm just trying to make up words. All right, let's go. We are going to get this done. And hopefully you're not hearing that terrible echo that was plaguing everybody's brain and haunting them at night. So that was pretty terrible. I listened back to it on my phone and I was like, oh, poor viewers. But now we are past that point and we are about to get started. Let me catch up on your comments real quick and I'll start here in a second. We're live, nice. Hola, Paul. Audio is great. Gracias a Dios. Todo bien. Okay, awesome. Привет, Валентина, или тот, кто использует канал Валентина. Начинаем наше видео. Video is going to be in English. I assume you guys would already know that. But in case you don't, it is going to be in English. So now you do. You're just going to have to accept that as a fact of life. Here we are. All right. Let me go back to, whoops. Let's go back to this right here. All right. So this right here, what I have on the screen, is what a muscle fiber looks like. You have a huge muscle tissue, right? And in this case, let's talk about the bicep, right? We have a bicep muscle tissue. This is direct lighting, so it does not look as well as usual. Okay, I'm gonna stop. This is ridiculous. All right, you have these muscle fibers. This is your big muscle fiber. So your bicep has two heads. One of these heads would be this muscle that we're looking at right now, right here, right below me. This muscle has other muscles inside of it. All right. So the reason I'm talking about the structure is you need to understand this on a microscopic level, because later when I talk about actually training routines and hypertrophy and all this other stuff, it's going to make so much more sense when you understand what's going on here. So we're going to go on the microscopic level real quick. We're going to detail that real quick, and then we're going to go into everything else. Increíble español, te salió bien. Gracias, Isaias. You're starting to look like Paul the Terrible. Keep up the beard growth. I'm also growing mine, and that buzzed my head. Don't delete it. I want to use it in my next mushroom trip. Don't delete what? Oh, shoot. I already deleted it. Whoopsies. But I know how to recreate the error. I know what I did wrong. So if you really want to have echoes in your brain and 10,000 voices talking, I can make that happen for you. I'll make it. I'll call it mushroom trip, audio trip, whatever. We'll make it work. Here we are. What you're looking at is a muscle fiber. Inside of the muscle fiber, you are looking at more muscle fibers called I don't know what that fasciculus. Doesn't really matter. What we do really care about is the myofibers, because inside of the myofibers is where the micro tears are going to happen. Before we start all this, let me define two words for you. Hypertrophy, right? Hypertrophy means muscle growth. If you're trying to work out and grow your muscles and be a bodybuilder and put on some big baboons right here, big guns, if you're trying to grow really big guns and what you care about is size, what you're looking for is hypertrophy. Hypertrophy, the word hypertrophy means bigger muscles, right? Growth, if you're looking for growth. Strength training is not so much concerned with hypertrophy as it is concerned with maximum strength, or like lifting as much weight as you can possibly lift with the muscle size you already have. So you guys may be familiar with Anatoly, the gym bro that goes around and pretends to be a cleaner and lifts like insane amounts of weight, or Bulgarian powerlifters, which were made popular by Pavel Tsatsouline in his book called The Kettlebell King or something like that. Both of them focus on strength training. They're not very big guys. They don't weigh a lot of weight. They maybe weigh 165, 185 pounds, but are able to lift more than twice their body weight in deadlifts and bench and everything else. So they train what is called strength training. It's very different type of training than hypertrophy training, where you grow your muscles, right? And we're going to go over the two of them and how they work and exactly what happens during both movements. So that's why we backed up a little bit. We're going to talk about this muscle fiber that we're looking at right now, right in front of our faces. This muscle fiber has smaller, it's like a cable, right? The way it was explained to me in school. Think about a huge Golden Gate Bridge cable that's holding everything together. So you got this huge cable with lots of wires running in it. Inside of that cable, you got smaller cables. Inside of those cables, you have even smaller cables. Inside of those cables, you have even smaller cables, which are basically myofibers inside of myotube. Myoglobin, I don't even know. I don't remember what it's exactly made out of, but myo is usually, anything myo is usually muscle. That's just, the Latin or Greek or whatever acronym for muscle. So anytime you hear myo this, myo that, oh, he has myofibrosis, which is like muscle turning into stone fibrous tissue, which is like basically like rock or bone. Anyway, anything myo related is muscle. So you got these myofibers, which are very tiny little strands, kind of like in a big cable. And when you work out on a microscopic level, they rip, right? So these right here, I don't know if you can see my mouse. Yeah, you can see my mouse. These things right here on the very right, those very small myofibrils, they tear. Not all of them at once, just a few of them inside. And when they tear, what happens is, see these myofibrils inside this myofiber? On the before picture, you have a normal muscle fiber, or a myofibril, right? Lots and lots of strands of myofibrils. As they grow, as they rip, your body's like, oh shoot, I'm gonna die. I can't lift so much weight anymore. Next time it's gonna squash me, and I won't be able to lift it, and I won't be able to survive. Therefore, I need to get stronger. So when they recover, they recover much bigger. So your body grows new myofibrils, right? AKA hypertrophy, right? Hypertrophy is defined. Hypertrophy, the enlargement of an organ or tissue from the increase in size of its cells. Hypertrophy is what happens when your muscles get bigger, right? This is what bodybuilders focus on. So how do you create it? On a very, very basic principle level, you need to tear them, right? You need to tear them. So now the question is, how can I maximally tear them without injuring myself? And how can I have them repair without, like, as quick as possible? So basically, I rip as many as I can without injuring myself, and I repair as many of them as I can without waiting, with minimal time, equals maximum muscle growth. There's lots of things that are responsible for the repair of muscle fibers and having them grow, right? So number one is nutrition. That's why everybody brings it up. You need protein. You need amino acids. So your body builds these myofibrils from proteins that it creates, and the proteins that it creates are a chain of amino acids. You hook up enough amino acids in a chain, and the correct amino acids, it's called a protein. A protein is just a chain of amino acids, right? And so when we eat complete meat, chicken, red meat, whatever, complete protein, turkey, instead of amino acids, our body breaks down that protein, breaks it back into amino acids, then it takes those amino acids, restructures them in whatever way it needs to in order to build back the myofibrils in our blood or in our muscles. So that's basically what happens. So that's why you need to eat enough protein. And from the readings I made, make sure you're eating in a minimum of 1 gram per kilo of body weight. So if you weigh 80 kilos, make sure you're eating a minimum of 80 grams of protein. AKA, if you're American units, go off the rule of 1 gram. So half a gram per pound of body weight. So if I weigh 180 pounds, I'm trying to eat at least 90 minimum. This is the absolute minimum, 90 grams of protein a day. Split them up into 3 meals, 4 meals, whatever you got to do. That way your body has the fuel that it needs to rebuild the muscle fibers. So that's number one. Now, there are things you can do that help rebuild muscle fibers quicker, like steroids, right? Everybody's heard of steroids once or twice in their life at the very minimum. Steroids that do that too. They increase free testosterone in your blood. Free testosterone is a hormone that specifically targets many things. It creates baldness of the head. It creates better facial hair growth. And it also is known to rapidly increase recovery and the building of myofibrils, right? This is why people who take steroids tend to grow muscles much quicker, right? And why they also consume a little bit more protein, well, probably twice as much protein as everyone else, because their body needs the fuel, because it can actually use the fuel to build back the myofibrils back quicker. So, but if you're natural like me and you're just working out and you're like, how can I build muscle as quickly as I can? Make sure you have the proper nutrition. Make sure you're ripping the muscle fibers. Now, how do you structure your routine so you actually are ripping the muscle fibers and you're not just lying to yourself and everybody else? Oh, I'm going to the gym. And then 7 days later, 7 weeks later, 7 months later, boom, there's absolutely no progress, right? So you go to the gym for so long, there's no progress. What's happening? Why are my muscles not growing? Why am I not ripping them? I am sore. Hint, hint. Being sore doesn't necessarily mean you're growing your muscle fibers, right? There has been studies done that people who work out with the same routine over and over again, their body gets used to it, they stop getting sore. But if there's enough progressive overload, you're going to hear this term again. Progressive overload is a key term in hypertrophy. Progressive overload, absolutely important in muscle hypertrophy. If you don't use progressive overload, forget hypertrophy, right? You're not going to grow any muscle. And we're going to go deeper into progressive overload. We already covered nutrition. We already covered what you need to eat in order to build back your muscle. Minimum of half a gram of protein per pound of body weight, absolute minimum. Bodybuilders, they go for 1 up to 1.5 grams of protein per pound of body weight. If you're not on steroids, there's no need to go that high. If you want to be, just to be safe, your body will break down the extra protein that it's not using and use it for other things in the body. So amino acids are used everywhere in our body. So even though your body maximally restored the muscles or maximally sent the nutrients needed to build back the myofibrils that have been ripped, it will still use the broken down amino acids to create all kinds of other things. So let me catch up on your comments real quick, and we will continue talking about how we can ensure that we are getting maximum myofibril tears without creating injury, ensuring also that we are getting maximum hypertrophy or maximum muscle growth if that is your goal. All right, let me catch up on the comments real quick. Great. Bobby Hale is watching this with one hand right now. You know, there's other things you can watch with one hand that are probably a little bit more interesting than me yelling at a camera about this or that. So, either my stream is not working or my chat is not working. Live chat, there we go. Say yes if you can hear me. No, please don't tell me that my chat stopped again. Someone, anyone, please. Earth, Paul to Earth. And in the naked light I saw 10,000 people, maybe more. Okay, I was about to get depressed over here. All right, everything's working. And so here we go. We are going to be talking about how to create maximum myofibril tears without injuring ourselves, right? So there's a thing called progressive overload. It gets thrown around a lot. I don't know how much you know about progressive overload, but progressive overload basically means that you are slowly overloading your muscle again and again and again every single workout. So obviously, if you're doing the same amount of weight, you're lifting the same amount of weight for 3 years, and that's all you do is you just lift the same amount of weight for 3 years, same exact routine, same exact weight, same exact repetition, same exact sets. How can you expect to get bigger if you're doing the same thing over and over and over again, right? Einstein once said, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results every time. I absolutely hate that quote because it's so cheesy and corny. But hey, if that's what you're doing and you're into that and it's not working for you, hey, maybe that's why. Maybe you're a little bit insane. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna switch it up a little bit. We're gonna do more every workout, or at least more on average per week. Or at the very least, if you are just can't do a little bit more every week, you have to have a progressive, visible, upward trend month to month. Every month, you should be increasing either how many repetitions you're doing, or how many sets you're doing, or how much volume total you're doing in your workout. So if your workout is 1 hour long and you are used to doing 200 repetitions of whatever weight, you need to increase that to 250 repetitions in the same amount of time. Or you can make it more dense. You can do the same 200 repetitions, but instead of 1 hour, now you're doing it in 40 minutes. So you're overloading your muscles by doing more in less time. Or you are lifting more weight for 200 repetitions than you usually do. So if the goal is 150 pull-ups in 1 hour, and you do a week of, you do two pull days in that week and do 150 pull-ups for 2 days. Next week, try to do 155 pull-ups in the per workout in 1 hour. The next week, try to do 160 or 175 per hour. What you want to do is you want to push your muscles to the limit. Or you can do weighted. You can do 150 all the time, all year long, but you're slowly adding weight. 5 pounds, then 10 pounds, then 15 pounds, then 20 pounds, then 25 pounds, then 30 pounds, until you're doing double your body weight for 150 repetitions, and so on and so forth. Make sure you watch your form, all that stuff. But that progressive overload is going to guarantee you are creating micro tears in your myofibrils, and they're going to start off with this tiny little thing, and they're going to grow into this big old thing with lots of mitochondria and lots of new fibers being built, and your muscles is looking bigger and more swole. Now, we're talking about actual muscle fibers. There's other ways to make your muscles look way bigger without actually putting on more muscle or building up the muscle fibers, which we will discuss in a little bit. But the principle is eat enough so that when they're torn, they build back fine, and make sure they're actually being torn every workout. By increasing load. Progressive overload means you're constantly overloading yourself. Again, 3 ways to overload yourself. There's more ways, but 3 main ways. You either increase the amount of repetitions you're doing in the time frame. So every hour that you work out, or every 30 minutes that you work out, you're doing, if it was 100 push-ups you did the first time, next time you're doing 120 the same amount of time. Next time you're doing 140 in the same amount of time. Next time you're doing 160 in the same amount of time. So on and so forth. Or you're doing 100 all the time, but you're adding weight slowly. So you're doing 100, just body weight. Then you're doing 100 with 5 pounds, 100 with 10 pounds, 115 pounds, so on and so forth. Or, once again, you are doing 100, you are not adding any weight, but you are shortening the time in which you do it. All 3 of these, as far as I'm concerned, are equally effective. If you're doing 100 push-ups and it takes you 30 minutes to do them, next time do them in 25, next time do them in 20, next time do them in 15, next time do them in 10, next time do them in 5. There comes a point where you just do 100 non-stop, literally no rest, non-stop, and it becomes easy for you, in which case add more weight because you already compressed the time maximally, essentially, or increase your reps. So there is a limit. There is a limit because at some point you can't compress the time any further, and so you just have to add repetitions or add weight. This is the basics of hypertrophy training. There's other things you can chat GPT and look up, but essentially, if you take creatine helps water retention, which actually hydrates your muscle. You can put on 5 to 10 pounds of water, intramuscular water. So water that's not held under your skin, but water that's held inside of your muscles. So your muscles are going to still look as ripped, as vascular, as striated as always, while you weigh 5 to 10 pounds more, because the water is actually between all these myofibers that you've got going on inside your muscle package right here. So your muscles look swole, and you didn't actually build any new muscle. All you did was just fully hydrate your muscle, which actually increases endurance and helps your workouts and helps you last longer. Now, the last thing I didn't really address is how can we do all this without getting injured? The way we do all this without getting injured is by not pushing yourself too hard. So first thing I'm going to say is, and watching your form. When I say not pushing yourself too hard, if you feel like your muscles are about to snap, especially when you're a beginner, literally just stop, right? If you feel your muscles are just fatigued and tired and shaking, that's one thing. If you feel like your muscles about to snap, especially as a beginner, literally just stop. Like, don't continue the workout. Next time, try to do a little bit more. If you get close to a point where you feel like your muscles are going to snap, stop. Like, don't push yourself harder than you need to. And number two, the reason why you would feel that way, one is you're a beginner, your body's just not used to it. Take it slow. Don't over push yourself. Once your body gets used to it, after about 3 to 4 to 5 months, between 3 to 5 months, your body fully gets used to the workout. Then you can push yourself as hard as you want. Number two, though, other than just not pushing yourself too hard when you're starting, is having good form. When you have good form, it's very, very difficult to injure yourself, because if you have good form and you are doing your best every time and actually pushing yourself, the risk of injury is very, very low, especially if you're not taking steroids. The reason steroids increase risk of injury very, very strongly is because your muscle is growing too fast. Tendons take 3 to 4 times as long to build up, sometimes 6 times as long to build up as muscles do, especially if you're on steroids. So your muscles start pumping up and growing so fast that your tendons cannot keep up. And the muscle gets so strong that it tears off your tendon, creating severe injuries. It may not tear off the entire muscle, but some of the muscle fibers will literally tear off the tendon, creating literal lesions inside of your skin, inside of your muscle tissue. And you have to take long recovery periods, up to 3 to 6 months easy of recovery periods, because you injured. But why am I talking about steroids? Nobody does steroids on this channel. Nobody who watches me does steroids, so this probably doesn't apply to you. But in case you were curious why people on steroids are higher risk for injury, is because their tendons can't keep up with their muscles. And so their tendons rip, and that creates problems. Here we have a very brief overview on hypertrophy training. You have to have progressive overload, right? Progressive overload. You have to increase your volume. And a good rule of thumb is keep your sets a minimum of 30 minutes. Your workouts a minimum of 30 minutes. So I'm going to keep it at that. Keep increasing your volume. Keep your workouts a minimum of 30 minutes with not too much rest. And make sure you actually press your muscles enough that you actually feel really tired at the end of it. And not by tired, I mean like, oh, I can't breathe. Not that tired. Tired as in like I literally can't bend my arm anymore because it's so freaking exhausted. Again, 3 to 4 months into your working out is when you should be pushing yourself that hard, right? In the beginning, do not push yourself that hard. In the beginning, take it like a stroll in the park. Your body's getting used to it. Go at 50% your maximum power. Do that for the first 2 months, easy. Once your soreness gets over it and your body is getting used to the exercise, you can start pushing yourself harder and harder and harder. And you're going to have this thing where you're going to fall in love with working out, because you're actually going to get what's called a runner's high by not overstressing your body, but actually pushing yourself. And you just have to power through the first 3 months until you get to the point that workouts actually start bringing you like physical euphoria and pleasure when you push yourself. But you'll get there. I trust in you and I believe in you, and you will get there one day. So just stick to that. That is the basic concept of hypertrophy training. Progressive overload, plenty of nutrition to get nutrients into your muscles and build back the myofibrils that have been torn so that they can grow up back bigger. There's supplements like creatine that can help with water retention inside the muscle that does not take away from actual vascularity and striations of your muscle fibers, and your muscle fibers just as visible while you're looking way bulkier. So I highly recommend those things if hypertrophy is on your list of things to do. So yeah, hit your protein, take some creatine, push yourself hard, use progressive overload, keep your workouts at a minimum of 30 minutes per session, and yeah, good luck to you. I think you will do well. And yeah, actually push yourself. After about 3 to 4 months into working out, don't be afraid to push yourself hard until you can't, like, you literally can't do another squat. You can't do another pull-up. You can't do another push-up after those 30 minutes. And that's totally normal, right? Because your body after 3 to 4 months should get used to being able to push yourself that hard. Now we're going to talk about a completely different type of training, why it works, how we can build strength without needing to put on a lot of muscle, and how we can become incredibly strong, and how all this happens. And we're not going to talk about hypertrophy very much because this is a completely different approach to working out entirely. All right. Let me catch up on your comments before we start on the strength training stuff. I'm going to pull up some more pictures that may or may not help. Hope they help. And we'll go from there. Creatine did not help me last long, or maybe I'm a non-responder, Donnie says. Creatine takes time to build up in the system. Taking creatine for 1 week, you probably won't see much results. Even taking creatine for 3 weeks, you probably won't see much results. You start seeing results from creatine after the second month easily. So you have to take it consistently every day. 5 grams a day, I believe, is what the recommended dose is. 5 grams a day for 2 months, 3 months. After 2 to 3 months, you will start seeing significant increases in endurance, in muscle retention, all this stuff. Also, I believe there are non-responders to creatine. Just for sake of curiosity, let me check that real quick. Are there non-responders to creatine? Yes, some people are non-responders, but they don't experience the typical benefits, such as increased muscle strength or mass. So, but it is rare. So I guess some people, it is possible that they are non-responders, but they're more rare. Most people are responders. Or let's ask it, what percent of people? What percent of people are non-responders to creatine? 20 to 30% are non-responders to creatine, which is why I threw that in there as a bonus, like, hey, creatine is a good thing to try. You should try it out. Maybe it'll help you. And I'm not saying that it's absolutely essential for muscle growth, because what you want to do is you want to build bigger actual more myofibrils inside of your muscle tissue. And that's what's going to create hypertrophy, because that's actual fiber muscle growth. Creatine is kind of like a hack, a cheat that actually works for 70% of people, apparently. So there we go, 70 to 80% of people. Training close to muscular failure is very important for hypertrophy. 100% agree. Close to muscular failure is very important. Although, again, I stress, 3 to 4 months going into working out if you've never worked out before. Don't push yourself too hard. Go about 50 to 70% of what your total output is. After 3 to 4 months, you can start pushing yourself to like 95% until like literally I can't move anymore. All right. But first 3 to 4 months, because your tendons, because your muscles, because your neural system isn't fully used to it, I wouldn't push yourself too much, because your risk of injury is significantly higher. So that's all I got to say on that. I'm live on Twitch too, by the way. Oh well, I have no idea what's going on with this streaming software. I'll figure it out later. As long as you guys can see me and we are... Sorry, that was a really loud clap. As long as we are getting through this, I'm happy, and Hopefully everybody's getting educated. All right, now we're going to talk about strength training. All right, let's look at synaptic facilitation. Let's see if this gives me some good pictures here. LTP, LTD. All right, this is pretty good, but I need something better. Muscle strength through neuro training. See if that gives me anything. Acute resistance training, chronic resistance training. Neural adaptation. There we go. All right. I think this one right here might work. Here we go. All right, here we go. Let's do this. Boom. All right, guys, you see this right here? This is what we're going to be talking about, the motor unit. All right, so now we're going to talk about strength training and how it actually works. You may have heard of a thing called beginner gains. What causes beginner gains? What are beginner gains? Why do people go from lifting 50 pounds to 125 pounds in a month? Squatting, barely doing a squat with a bar, with just a squat bar by itself, a 45-pound Olympic squat bar, to being able to load up 45-pound plates on each side within a month. And squatting freaking 45 times 3, whatever that is. What is that? 90, 135. They go from squatting 45 to 135 in 1 month. Beginner gains. What causes beginner gains? Why can't people do that? Why is that like a thing? What is happening? Is your muscle really building up that fast? Think of it this way. I'm going to bring up a really nice analogy, which I hope is going to work. All right, so see this right here? There's a motor neuron, motor end plate, and skeletal muscle fibers. The skeletal muscle fibers are your actual fibers, right? So I'm holding my arm out. I got skeletal muscle fibers right here in my bicep. My body, I tell my body, hey, I gotta bend my arm right now. My body, you don't have to think about this. You just bend your arm, right? You're not thinking about it much. But what's happening is your body is sending a signal through motor neurons that are connected. They're like an electrical wire system going through your entire body. It sends a signal to your muscle. The signal that to the muscle basically sends an electrical signal that says contract, and then your body goes pop, pop. It contracts. How fast you do it, how slow you do it, that's all based on the strength of the signal. Now, there's a motor neuron going to every single muscle fiber in your body. Can you imagine that? That's pretty crazy. There's a tiny, tiny wire called a motor neuron going to every single muscle fiber in your entire body, and it tells your body how to flex. Now, if you told your arm to flex, say I was holding something extremely heavy, 200-pound weight on an extended bar, and I've never lifted before. I'm holding a 200-pound weight on an extended bar. I've never lifted something before. And I tell my body, hey, I'm gonna curl this weight right now. You better curl this weight. And it can't do it. Technically, in most cases, your body has the strength to do it if it was to activate 100% of the muscle fibers at the same time. If it was to activate 100% of the muscle fibers at the same time, in my bicep, there's a good chance I could have been able to lift that weight. But there's also an extremely high chance that my bicep would just contract so fast, it would literally snap off my bone. It will rip off the tendon that attaches to my bone. See this? Well, you can't even see it on me right here, but put your finger right here on your bicep. You do it on your arm, not on mine, obviously. Right here where your muscle ends, there's this like rope thing going on. So that rope right there is what's called a tendon. It's what connects your muscle fiber to your bone. That tendon is not as strong as flexing 100% of all your bicep muscle fibers all at the same time at maximum capacity, because it will literally just snap off. So what happens is, when you are new to training, your body does not know how to fire the correct motor neurons to activate the correct amount of muscle fibers to contract at the same time and in the correct sync in order to lift the weight. And so what happens with beginner gains is you're not putting on more weight. You're not growing muscle that fast that you're going from 45 pounds of lifting the dumbbell or the barbell to 135 pounds of lifting the barbell. There's absolutely no way in the world that that's what's happening. Instead, what's happening is your body is building stronger electrical wires to every single one of your muscle fibers. And not only is it building stronger electrical wires, again, I'm speaking in metaphor right now to make this make sense, to every single muscle fiber in your muscle group, it is also strengthening the connections that are already there. And also, it is learning to activate them in the correct synchronicity. Yeah, in the correct order, so that they're contracting at the same time, they're releasing at the same time. That type of neural training that is happening at the time that you are gaining beginner gains is your body learning where the safe spot is for it to activate more muscle fibers without the muscle tearing off your bone, is essentially what's happening. This is all going to make a lot of sense when I'm talking about strength training, because beginner gains is 100% strength training and not hypertrophy training. It's when you teach your body to activate more muscle fibers without blowing out the fuse, so to say. I have here, well, not this one in particular, but most of my rooms, they have a dimmer switch. The dimmer switch controls how bright the light is in my room. I can put it at 30%, I can put it on 50%, I can put it at 100%. Now, if there was no safety on the power switch, like I put it at top and then it stops, right? It doesn't keep going. If there was no safety and I just kept twisting it and just launching more amperage into my freaking bulb, or more wattage. Yeah, it's probably more wattage because it's a combination of volts and volts and amps. Volts and amps give you watts, total power output. Anyway, if there was no limit on the total wattage and I could just keep spinning that thing, I would spin it so much the bulb would just pop, explode from receiving so much wattage that it can't handle it, right? That's what would happen if my dimmer switches didn't have a stop. In the same way, your body has built-in safety mechanisms. So when you start working out, your body's like, I don't want my freaking muscle to rip off my bone. So what am I gonna do? I'm gonna put that stop for the dimmer switch for how much voltage I'm sending to the muscle to contract, and how quickly I do it, and how much I'm sending it to each muscle fiber, because you have tons of muscle fibers in every single muscle group. I'm gonna go to 20%. Let's see 20%. Oh, I'm safe. No risk of injury. Everything's good. 20%, totally cool. Let's overclock it a little bit. Well, let's clock it up. It's not technically overclocking because you're not even near 50%. So what are we talking about? So it goes, okay, 20% was easy to do. Why don't we do 30%? And so next workout, you come, you do 30%. Your body's like, oh, this is an easy walk in the park. I could do 30% any day of the week. And then your body's like, oh, why don't we go to 40% activation? Oh, next thing you know, 40% activation. That's cool. No problem at all. 40%, 50%. I think, if I'm not mistaken correctly, powerlifters, total percent activation muscle fibers. Highly trained powerlifters can voluntarily activate their muscles in the 80 to 90% range, especially when performing a max effort lift. 80 to 90% of their muscle fibers get activated at the same time. For most people, the percentage of muscle fibers that can be voluntarily activated ranges from 20% to 85%. Now imagine this. You're coming to the gym and you've never worked out a day in your life. And your body is afraid of anything. Just like you have anxiety going into the world and seeing a bunch of new insects in Australia that you've never seen before, and you start freaking out like, I don't want to step foot outside. And then slowly through exposure therapy, you're like, oh, this spider doesn't bite. Oh, that spider doesn't bite. Oh, this is cool. This is cool. Oh, these things don't just attack me. They're scared of me. They run away. You start exploring and like building your comfort zone, building your comfort circle. Now you can travel further outside of your house because of all these dangerous animals outside. Super weird analogy, I know. In the same way, you come to the gym and your body's like, oh shoot, I've never lifted weights before. I've never activated my muscle fibers before. Let's start at 20%. And so voluntarily, you're trying your hardest. You actually are trying your absolute hardest. But you have all these safety switches going off in your brain that are only allowing you to use 20% of your muscle fibers. And here you are lifting a barbell, a 45-pound Olympic barbell, only being able to squat 45 pounds, barely. And your body is like, oof, I don't know. This is questionable. 1 month later, you do this consistently for a week, second week, third week, fourth week, you're up to 135 pounds. Your body goes from activated 20% of your muscle fibers to now activating easily 45-50% of your muscle fibers without issue. Why? Because it felt safe, it expanded its safety circle, and now it can travel a mile outside of its house. Now the comfort circle has grown. Now the safety mechanism and triggers have moved, and now the body's like, okay, I can feel comfortable doing this. And so what muscle training or strength training entirely is composed of is pushing that circle to the max without creating injury. It is teaching your body how you can activate 90% of your muscle fibers every time consistently, lifting a maximum amount of weight and not injuring yourself while freaking lifting twice your body weight, right? So this is all tied to the activation of maximum muscle fibers in one lift without necessarily needing to grow it. So best analogy I've heard, we were talking about the light bulbs just a second ago. Best analogy I've heard is hypertrophy is increasing the bulb, your light bulb on your ceiling. It can handle more wattage. It can shine brighter light. But if you never do strength training, it will always shine at 30% brightness. And yeah, you can get a bigger bulb and constantly keep replacing the bigger bulb. And it will constantly shine a little bit brighter. But sometimes strength training is pretty good to mix in there so you can maximally use the full potential of the bulb by being able to give it more wattage, by being able to lift and activate a higher percentage of muscle fibers per lift. And so the wattage, the electricity being sent to the bulb, aka the muscle, is the strength training part. And how big the bulb is literally hypertrophy, because that's when you're building bigger and bigger muscles and adding more and more myofibrils to your existing muscle fibers. All right, let's answer some questions, and then I'm going to go into how to build a strength training routine and what kind of special training we can do to maximally train our body to feel safe, recruiting the maximum number of muscle fibers and maximum percent of muscle fibers. Yeah. So let's catch up on some comments and we'll go there. All right. No important comments. Let's get into strength training. Let's get into how to build a strength training routine. We're about 40 minutes into our lecture, which is, in my book, pretty good. That's pretty good. We've covering a pretty good amount in a little amount of time. So as far as I'm concerned, we're doing pretty good. Let me check my stream on my phone and see if it's actually showing up for you guys, or if it's not showing up for me. I don't know if it's showing up for you guys. Let me switch my YouTube channel to my secondary account. So, see if it pops up. There it goes. 16 viewers. All right, that's not bad. All right. Are y'all ready for this? Y'all ready to get your mind blown? I'm just kidding. We're gonna go over the basics. So, when you start training, the way you activate more muscle fibers is by safely lifting and showing your body that it is capable of activating more muscle fibers without creating injury or without pulling on your tendon too much or your bone too much. I do need to mention one very, very important thing that oftentimes gets ignored for people who do strength training is to maximally recruit your muscle fibers in any lift and any muscle and become extremely strong. You actually need extremely strong tendons to be able to support the pull of the muscle. So as you do these lifts, right, keep in mind that you're not just training the electrical connection to the muscle fibers and the synchronicity that you need in order to activate them at the same time in the same moment, chronologically, in the correct pattern to be able to activate them all at the same time. You're not just doing that. You're also creating micro tears. Again, micro tears in your tendon that will need lots of time to repair because there's no blood vessels going to your tendons at all. There's no blood tendons in your ligaments and tendons or cartilage. Cartilage doesn't have any blood vessels going to it. So the way that nutrients get pumped there is literally through movement, through aqueous solution, bouncing up and down every time you perform any kind of movement. So as you do this strength training, keep in mind, it's not going to always be as easy as it is through beginner gains. But it will come, and through years of training, your tendons will become thicker and stronger. Your ligaments connecting the bones together through lots of movement do become, under pressure, become thicker and stronger. And believe it or not, even cartilage builds up. If you don't believe me, Google images of gymnasts before they started training and after, or pictures of gymnast x-rays of cartilage. Why don't I just do that now? Gymnast, cartilage, and tendons compared to regular person. X-ray. All right, check this out. Anyway, I think you might have to watch some videos. I think it was in YouTube videos that I saw this. So they do have cartilage overuse at times because of the constant rubbing and constant impact sport that they do with all their jumps and everything else. But we're not talking about jumps. We're talking about safe technique lifts. All right, like right here. Look at the picture on the left and the picture on the right. Picture on the left, way less density on the bone. Picture on the right, way more density on the bone. I'm not an x-ray specialist, so tell me if I'm wrong. But basically, the documentary I saw on this showed side-by-side pictures of gymnasts compared to regular people, and they had way denser tendons, way denser bone structure, way denser everything because of the microfractures that constantly build up, which allows them to activate more muscle fibers, which also makes them incredibly strong for the size. Let me catch up on a couple comments. At a certain point, if strength is my focus, will weighted calisthenics become necessary to keep the focus on strength progression and not hypertrophy endurance progression? Absolutely, but there are more advanced like planche training and like more advanced types of exercises that are extremely difficult to do that may not require extra weight just because on their own they're extremely difficult. All right, so now that we talked about how strength training requires the building of your tendons and it builds up through higher activation of the muscle fibers by building stronger connections to your muscle fibers and being able to activate them. Now, what kind of exercises specifically make you do that? What kind of exercises specifically will make you activate more muscle fibers without necessarily stressing your muscles out, taking them to failure, ripping them up? So the question now stands, how can I get stronger tendons, activate a higher percentage of my muscle fibers, be able to activate a higher percentage of my muscle fibers at the same time during a lift without injuring myself and without tearing my muscles up? Because if I tear them up, it's going to turn into hypertrophy training and I need longer recovery times. The answer is fairly simple. It's actually taking that beginner gains mentality and putting it on steroids. Not literally, metaphorically. Here's what I mean by that. When you're beginner training, when you're a beginner and you get those beginner gains of going from 20% to 40% muscle activation, which doubles your strength in no time, and you're like, whoa, I am Hercules. I could lift twice as much in just a month. What happens is you push yourself to the max, but you don't push yourself enough to create a lot of micro tears in your muscles because your body stops you from doing that. You literally don't do enough repetitions because you need high repetitions in order to reach those levels of like activating the muscle fibers and ripping them up and all this stuff. Your body caps you from doing that because it feels unsafe. Now, as you get safer, your body finds that middle ground where it can do more and it can allow some of your muscle fibers to tear in a very, scientifically balanced, measured way, where it's like, it's okay, I can repair that, we're still not injured, and we're going to get back stronger. Now, you can trick your body, and you can trick your body into lifting more weight, but not getting to the point that you're ripping up your muscle fibers. The way you do that is by doing low repetition, high weight exercises with proper form. When it comes to strength training, proper form is of essence, because if you are teaching your body to activate a higher percentage of your muscle fibers, you're putting more pressure on your tendons. If you're putting more pressure on your tendons, you absolutely do not want to put your tendons in very disadvantageous positions or very unnatural positions because the risk for injury goes way up. All right, so proper form is of essence if you're trying to focus on strength training in particular and getting incredibly strong for your weight. You can weigh 145 pounds and be holding planche for 10 seconds, doing planche push-ups, doing handstand push-ups, doing front lever pull-ups, doing one-arm pull-ups, doing one-arm handstands. You could do all those things at a weight of 145 pounds. Fairly skinny, not very big, not very buff. You can be doing all that if you focus on strength training. If you want to be an extremely impressive athlete and be able to do all that, you have to make sure you always put form as your number one focus. Because if your form is correct and you do high weight or advanced exercises with good form, with low repetitions, what you're training your body to do is do high percent muscle fiber activation. Because you're doing low repetitions, you do a few of those, you don't create a lot of micro tears in your muscles, and your body's like, okay, next time I can activate a little bit more. Next time I can activate a little bit more. And so your body starts lifting those safety measures higher and higher and activating more muscle fibers because it knows you're not going to do as many repetitions. And so it allows you to lift more, allows you to activate higher percent of muscle fibers, allows you to do more difficult exercises without causing injury because it gets used to the low repetitions, one, and because as you do these over and over and over again for a period of months, your tendons actually do get stronger and they can actually sustain the higher activation of the muscle fibers. So the way that deadlifters do this, Bulgarian deadlifters, for example, that this is based on the Pavel Tsulin's the kettlebell workout book, is they do 3 sets, or they do 5 sets of 3 repetitions throughout the day. And this is Anatoly's workout, actually. Same thing. They either do 5 sets of 3 or 3 sets of 5, usually 5 sets of 3, sometimes 10 sets of 3. They literally load up to about 80% of their maximum lift weight, right? So if they can lift 350-pound deadlift, they're going to do 3 repetitions of 350 pounds with perfect form and leave it. They're done. They're done for the next 2 hours. 2 hours later, their body fully recovers. Their neural system's like, oh, okay, that was easy. We did good. There's not enough micro tears being created in the muscles because they didn't even have enough time to fatigue in order to start ripping. They just did their best, and like, we were good. Like, we call it a day. 2-3 hours later, they come up. They do another set of 3 deadlifts. Then he can just rest 30 minutes and do another set of 3 deadlifts. They spread that out throughout the day. Now, that is not high enough repetitions to create micro tears inside the muscle, so you don't need daily recovery the way that you would with hypertrophy training. With hypertrophy training, you might need up to a week of recovery, depending on how much you tore your muscles up. Usually 3 to 5 days, right? Depending on the muscle group, 3 to 5 days to recover. With this type of training, 1 to 2 days for your neural system to recover, for the motor neurons to become stronger, to build up, I don't know, myelin or myosin? What is it called? Myofiber. Motor neuron. During neural system training, what builds to create stronger muscle activation? I think in myelin. Anyway, neural driven model. Myelin sheaths. See, myelin sheaths, stronger signal. Myelin. Okay, there we go. Myelination of the motor neurons. Before muscles grow, the nervous system learns how to use the existing muscle fibers more effectively. Hey, what do you know? This is exactly what we're talking about. Physique. Oof. Physique.com. Physique.com. Consistent training promotes myelination of motor neurons, which speeds up neural signaling, allowing faster, more synchronized recruitment. What I'm trying to say is, ladies and gentlemen, mostly gentlemen, but some ladies watching, is instead of building up new myofibrils, your body needs to build stronger myelin sheaths. So it's building a completely different part of the body. And myelin sheaths, from what I know, are much easier and quicker to build than myofibrils. Myofibrils require the construction of new mitochondria, because every single myofibril requires its own mitochondria, because it has its own waste management system and its own little factory for ATP production and all that stuff. So each myofibril requires the construction of a lot of mitochondria. Mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell, are like little factories being built. That requires a lot of energy, and it takes a while to build those back. However, myelin sheaths do not require the building of new mitochondria. You also do not require building tons and tons of brand new neural networks. You just strengthen existing neural networks and somehow it does it much quicker. Your body does this much quicker than it does hypertrophy. So this is much quicker to build. The lesson here is, if you keep your reps low and your weight high, and you split your sets up into one every several hours, you are able to train way more often. You can train 5 times a day, easy. And one full day rest, and you can train 5 times a day again on your 3rd day, easy. And then do that again on the 6th day, easy. And then again on the 9th day, easy. And what's going to happen is your body has enough time to recover, to build stronger myelin sheaths around your signal producing neurons, motor neurons, and activate more of the muscle fibers that you have inside your muscles, making you stronger, making you lift more, and making you be able to do much more higher and advanced body weight movements of all kinds. So this is, my friends, the difference between hypertrophy training and strength training. And now you may wonder, Paul, why the heck do you look like a bodybuilder? Well, if you followed any of my streams for any length of time for the last 90-something streams, you would have noticed that I mostly do hypertrophy training, bodyweight hypertrophy training, because I do very high repetitions in very low amount of time, and I push myself to the max through progressive overload each time. Now with this, you also have progressive overload, meaning that you do want to lift more and more as time goes on, because that's the whole point, is to get stronger. But you're doing it in such low volume sets with so much spacing in between that you're not allowing your muscles to fatigue so much that they can start creating micro tears. All right. Instead, you're just teaching your body like, hey, I just lifted this much weight 3 times. I was safe. Give me a little bit more. Give me a little nudge next time. Next time comes around 3 hours later. You lift it again. You're telling your body, hey, you see how easily I did that? I did those 350-pound deadlift 3 times easy. Give me a little more gas. I want some more fuel. Next time, just a little more. That was safe. You do that again. You do that again. You do that day after day after day. And then your body's like, you know what? I'll give you a little more gas. I think you're good. I think you're good. I think you can do more. Boom. New PR. New PR in a week of training, no hypertrophy, same weight, lifting more weight. Why? Better neuromuscular activation, higher percentage of muscle fibers being recruited through a stronger neural network, and boom, you're a stronger man. And you don't have to rest for 5 freaking days and be sore for 5 freaking days because you tried to do hypertrophy training because you want bigger muscles, like me. I'm talking to myself, guys, most of all, because I really need to focus on strength training so I can do this planche stuff. But meanwhile, before we get back to that, I'm gonna get to my repetitions. I'm gonna get to my 45 pull-ups. I'm gonna get to my 80 dips, and I'm gonna slaughter that. Once that's slaughtered, we're gonna focus a lot more on strength activation training. I hope I answered all the questions you guys had regarding how to structure your workout in a way that you can either build more muscle, that was the whole first 30 minutes of the video, or how you can get way stronger without having to experience nearly as much soreness, or having to wait a long time for your muscles to recover because you tore them up. And the way you do that is keep sets spread apart, far and wide, lift heavy, or do very difficult body weight movements for very short periods of time so your muscles do not fatigue. Only your neural system gets activated enough to contract the muscle fibers, give it a little squeeze. Do that every few hours, every 3 to 4 hours. Give them a little squeeze, but not enough to fatigue them. And boom, next thing you know, you're stronger every day. Stronger every day. Next thing you know, people are like, what the hell? This guy can do a 1-arm handstand? This guy can do front lever pull-ups? 1-arm pull-ups? How? How in the world? Answer is simple. They followed Paul's advice. Forces with you today, body, mind, soul, spirit. I'm going to leave 10 minutes here. It is 9:30. We are exactly 1 hour into our lecture. We are finishing on time. This lecture is not as good as it could have been if I would have prepped the PowerPoint better, but we covered all the material. We answered all the questions about both, at least more or less, at least, the main principles are there. And now, if you want to support me, and this video has helped me, take this video, post it on your wall, send it to your friends, clip some things out of this video and tell them, hey, here's the difference between these two types of training, because I get asked this a lot. Now I'm just going to send everybody to video number 98, stream number 98. Go watch stream number 98. If you want to know how to build muscle or how to train for strength, these are the principles. This is the biology. This is what happens on the neuromuscular level. That is how you make that happen. All right, let me catch up now on your comments, answer any questions you may have, and we're going to clock out for today. So, what's his name? Sure says, so I shouldn't treat my body like a child and start to treat it like a mule and work harder. Sure. I have no idea. I have no idea how that relates to anything I said, but yeah. I treat my body like a mule. Why not? I think that's a good... As long as that mule gets fed plenty and is allowed plenty of sleep. Amen, muscle man. Preach, brother. Good job, Paul. I did this all in less than a day. You did this. It did this. Good job, Paul. It did this all in less than a day, and it's still very informative. I did it in less than a day. Awesome English skills. Moving on. Body weight bodybuilding is what Paul's been doing, according to Waylon. Yes, sir. That's exactly what I've been doing. I've been body weight bodybuilding. Exactly what I've been doing. I'm not seeing a lot of comments come through, so I think we have exhausted this topic, both of them. How to build a hypertrophy training routine versus how to do strength training. I hope you found this informative. I hope you figured out how exactly you can train to build muscle and how I train with body weight to build muscle. And I hope you also learn how to build more strength without overloading your muscles and just becoming stronger at the same body weight that you're at. Both require progressive overload. But the first one, you really need to tear those muscles up, especially after the first 3 to 4 months after you're past that beginner stage of getting your body used to working out. You'll be good. Or if you're trying to focus on strength training and impress all the ladies with your planche push-ups and front lever pull-ups, which in reality is more impressive to the guys than the women, focus on strength training. Don't be doing all this hypertrophy training, tearing your muscles up, having to rest 5 days for recovery, feeling sore for weeks at a time. Don't do that. Just get stronger. You know what I mean? That's simple. One final thought. When you do strength training, I already mentioned you do create micro tears on your tendons and you do want to strengthen your tendons. Some supplements I highly recommend for that. MSM McDonald's, Sam, McDonald's, MSM. That's not what it stands for, actually. I'm just giving you words to understand what I'm saying. MSM is what you want to look up. Also, I've heard good things about glucosamine with chondroitin, although I don't know very much about it. I know MSM for sure helps, guaranteed. And I know collagen is very good because collagen is essentially what the same exact ingredients that your tendons and cartilage is made out of. Collagen hydrolysate. Let me look that up real quick. Yeah, collagen hydrolysate powder. Hydrolysate, I believe, just means that it easily dissolves in water. Collagen hydrolysate is what you want to take, and MSM for tendon recovery. If you're doing strength training, and make sure you're eating enough protein, and creatine helps as well with hypertrophy training. I think that pretty much covers it, ladies and gentlemen. Did I miss YouTube? I did, and I'm back. And so here we are, guys. We're doing our best over here. Everything's going well and swell. And bingo! I'm at my heaviest weight ever. 180 pounds I weighed myself the last few days. I'm looking great, guys. So, can you do bodybuilding with bodyweight fitness? 100%. You can. Sure, Muscle Man, Isaiah, Marcus, Andre, Valentina, Donnie, Bite Hunter. Who else am I missing? Bobby Hill, Yvonne, Torque. Thank you all for joining. I'm sorry for the technical difficulties in the beginning. And I wish y'all a good night. Low one, good to see you back, player. I always wondered if you are okay. I am doing so much better now. I'm doing so much more okay than I was earlier, so thanks for asking. We're going to wrap it up here. I'll see y'all tomorrow at 7 p.m. Hopefully my stream doesn't act weird again, because it's been acting weird. And I'll do my best to prepare a little bit more for tomorrow. Tomorrow's topic is nutrition. If you like today's stream, share it with all your friends and try to bully your friends into coming to tomorrow's stream. Say, you want your fingers chopped off by me with a butcher knife? No. Join Paul's stream. He's going to talk about nutrition, or I'll eat your friggin' fingers for breakfast because he said I need the protein. And hopefully we can get some more viewers here tomorrow. Thank y'all. God bless you. Body, mind, soul, spirit. Keep your spirit alive. Stay strong. Stay positive. And ciao.